So are we ready to rock and roll? Let's do it. Woo! All right. Welcome everybody to our Team Tuck book reading for season 4. Today, November 1st, National Authors Day. Super excited. Such an amazing opportunity to be here with you. It's 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And we are going to start this off tonight. Chapter 13, we are reading Rodel. And Rachel Mason, my awesome friend from across the pond, is going to be our guest reader. Thank you so much, Rachel, for saying yes to being our reader as we're diving in a little bit deeper. It's such a treat to have you read today in our community and just being here to read from the book of being entitled The Ultimate Coach. This event is a co-created space for a deeper experience of the book and to further explore being within this amazing community of individuals. As we begin today, I ask that you please share in the chat something that's coming up for you, whether it's something that's frustrating you, or is there any one thing that's weighing heavy on you that being here in this book reading space this evening, you're searching for some enlightenment? Is there anything that's coming up for you? If there is something, just throw it in the chat. Ken making 56 kids cry. Oh, Hamas. Yes. Project stuckness. Yes. More content with life, feeling and connecting. So many things. Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Those are awesome. I want to take a moment just to acknowledge each and every one of you, not only for showing up for this book reading this evening, but for taking the opportunity to really go deeper and explore being for yourself and just taking this time. Your presence is so valued in this co-created space. And one thing that Steve offers us is the consideration of the intentions of what this book really is, and for us to just be here to expand our state of being. So with that, we're going to work on moving into taking the opportunity to save our acknowledgments for afterwards, where if you want to message somebody, please do it in the chat. But we request that you share about you. And if you're feeling called to acknowledge somebody, just please do it, in a different manner. We request that you are read about yourself. When you're listening, that you're listening about yourself. And when it comes time to share, we want you to share about you. And it's so beautifully stated in Byron Katie's book. And we've all experienced about anyone else's idea that we have about them. Please be aware that you're sharing and you start to share from the idea of someone, not you, that we lovingly guide you back to that. Just take it, just have the opportunity to go back to what it really means to you and not necessarily sharing and acknowledging about others. Really make it be about you. And with that, we're going to pass it over to Tom so we can get rolling on our amazing chapter 13.
Zai. Yes. All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. I got a little scared there for a second, Dave. So as you were talking, Elizabeth, I got really present, or when you asked to put what we're dealing with in the chat, I got present to the strange energy that we would say is around the world right now, and has been around the world. And it was started with COVID, and now it's the war, and there's the war in the Ukraine, which we don't hear about anymore. And it's like all this negativity, right? And it's low energy, but not in this room. Not in this room. I love being in this room. I come to this room for the purposes of renewal and excitement and possibility. So I want to welcome every one of you. I think I I think I pretty much know all of you. I don't see any newcomers to the room. I think everybody's been here. Unstoppable Joy, is this are you a newcomer? Okay. I forgot your name. So, and again,
Sorry, I am a newcomer. This is my first time. Yeah.
Oh.
So first time in the group. I've been posting a little bit. Just started reading Book of Being, entitled The Ultimate Coach. So it's great to be here. So thanks for the warm welcome in the chat and the Facebook group and right here. Cheers.
Give us your name so we can associate Unstoppable Joy with you.
It's Greg D. Coker.
Greg D. Coker, you did say that.
You got it. Yeah, I forgot my name. Yeah, it was, I should put Greg / Unstoppable Joy, but you're getting the essence of me in the name, Unstoppable
We're
Joy.
good. We got it now.
Cheers.
All right.
Thank you.
So I welcome all of you, and you're all my friends, and you are what makes this such an amazing, weekly event for all of us. I also want to acknowledge and welcome our guest reader, Rachel. Where are you? And I understand you are from the other side of the pond. So you already switched to daylight savings or switched off of it, right?
Yeah, we don't have daylight savings time here.
Yeah, we're going to be dealing with that this weekend in the States. So it's going to be a little weird time thing for a couple weeks here. So anyways, thank you for being here, Rachel. I want to acknowledge Greg DeCoker for being here. Any other first timers? I don't think I see any. I know, Joe, you've been here. I think that's it. So we appreciate that. We got to get the word out and get more people here. So if you have the book, let's raise it up in honor of National Authors Day today. All right. And I want to ask, while we have our books held high, is there anyone that has not read the back of the book or before you begin, the first 2 pages? I kind of feel like everybody might have, other than Greg. But Greg, do you have a book with you? You do. And are you not driving?
No, I'm not driving. So
Would
I'm on
you
the passenger seat. I brought my book.
Could we
And
have
I have read
read the back of the book for us?
Yes, I have in the first 2 pages, and I'm on chapter 1. I'm just
Well,
diving in.
You take the back of the book, and who would like to read before you begin? Maybe someone that has never read or someone that hasn't read in a long time. Martha. Wow, lots of hands went up, but Martha, I'm volunteering you. All right. So here's how we'll do our reading tonight. So Greg, you will go first when we kick it off. And then seamlessly, Martha, you'll come right in. And then Rachel, when Martha's done, you'll just pick right back up. And it'll be just one to the next to the next. As a listener, if something resonates, whether it's the back of the book, the before you begin, or what Rachel's going to read, the Rodel chapter 13, if there's something that resonates and you feel a nudge, put it in the chat. Share your nudge. Share the what resonates, and maybe share about it. Maybe share about it later. So just a gentle reminder, to get the most out of this book reading, you want to listen to Greg, Martha, and Rachel as if this book is about you. And it is about you. And when it's time to share and you want to share, and that nudge that you had is saying share about you. And if this is not a time, would not be a time to acknowledge someone else, just keep the share about you. Are we ready to go? We're ready to go? All right. So Greg, take it away. Can we unmute Greg?
And Tom, am I reading chapter 13? Sorry, I got a lot going on. I'm reading the back. Thank you.
Reading the back.
All right. Perfect. I just turned the light on so I can read it. Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I am interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you. Steve Hardison. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Martha, you got to unmute.
Before you begin, Steve Hardison. I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. The book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend, Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's about a book about being. And it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have a miracle show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationship with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part of this book about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed. Be you, Steve Hardison.
All right. Chapter 13. Rodel. Amy, can you help me with my computer? Amy hears this a lot. Steve is not a technical whiz, nor is he an engineer or a handyman. When Blake was about 12, the light bulb in his bedroom was flickering. The light bulb was new, so Steve figured it was probably the connection. He had a brilliant idea, something his grandpa had done. He covered the metal base of the light bulb with foil and screwed in the light bulb. He turned on the light switch. The light bulb exploded and the electricity in the house went out. Steve hadn't noticed that his grandfather made a hole in the foil for the base of the light bulb to go through. So how did Steve, a low-tech guy without a PhD in chemistry or engineering, end up being the president of Rodel Products, a high-tech company that supplied chemicals and pads for polishing silicon wafers? In 1983, Steve was ready to leave Xerox. Mike Coether, the branch manager of Xerox, asked Steve about his plans. When Steve said he had not yet decided on his next step, Mike called his friend and former fraternity brother, Don Budinger. He told him he had a young, sharp employee who was leaving Xerox. Don needed to see him. Steve recalls his first meeting with Don. The minute I saw Don, I was impressed. He was impeccably dressed. As we visited, it was clear he was polished, articulate, and brilliant. Everything about him was impressive. I knew I would learn a lot from him. Not long into our conversation, he stopped and said, "What would it take for you to come work for me?" Steve was hired to work in sales, but Don never intended for him to stay there. At their very first meeting, Don drew on a piece of paper the pathway for Steve to become the general manager of the company. Steve had a lot to learn. When I looked at the Rodel Products brochure, I thought, I need a dictionary to understand this. On one occasion, Steve was in a manufacturing facility and started to put his finger into some liquid. A stunned engineer pulled Steve's hand away just before he submerged it in a vat of hydrochloric acid. Indeed, Steve had a lot to learn. He also intuitively knew how and where to go to learn the most essential things. He went into the plant in Delaware and talked to the people who worked on the assembly lines. He asked questions about how the products were made and how they worked. He asked the line workers what they needed to make their job easier. He went into the research and development lab, gowned up, and learned how to use the polishing machine. Steve spent more time at the plant than any salesperson ever had. Steve mastered the nuts and bolts. Then he brought in his expertise, how to bring warring parties to consensus, how to solve problems, how to listen for answers, and how to enroll people in a vision. Don Budinger recalls, "We got to the point where we had 30% of the worldwide market for what we did. We were the number one market shareholder. So I decided that we would take a risk. We had a company meeting in Delaware every month. I said, 'Congratulations, but we don't want to be the business where 70% of the people buy from somebody else. If you want a prosperous, secure, challenging, rewarding future, we need to have over half of the people in our technology space buy from us and not somebody else.' I made this great speech, and their response was, 'You don't appreciate what we're doing.' So Steve would come behind me and explain that they were appreciated, that what they had done was great, but we needed to do better to have a future we want. And frankly, he could make that case better than I could." Terry Hayes Sepp recalls that Steve was one of the strongest communicating Rodelians. Along with his listening and speaking skills, Steve brought creativity and a pitbull tenacity to solving problems. If salespeople complained that they couldn't get a certain foreign customer because they only bought from local vendors, Steve's response was that it didn't matter. They had to be better than whatever was in the way. In 1986, Steve was promoted to National Sales Manager. One day, Mike, one of Rodel's salespeople, came into his office. The world's largest manufacturer of silicon wafers at that time had just fired Rodel. They were incensed because Rodel's products were scratching their wafers and ruining their yields. They were going to find a new supplier. Steve told Mike to get 2 plane tickets for that afternoon or as soon as possible, and they would go and talk to them. I don't think you understand, Mike responded. They aren't happy. They don't want to see us ever. Just get the tickets, Steve said. They flew out the next morning. When they got to the corporate headquarters, they were given a scant 15 minutes to plead their case. Steve looked at the executives. It felt like a summer day in Arizona. A triple 111 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. Steve took a deep breath and began. We came to apologize. You have every right to be angry. You have every right to fire us. However, as I see it, you have 2 options. You can keep us and we can work together as partners, or you can fire us and get another vendor. But you will have the same problem with the new vendor. This is an industry-wide problem. You're so zealous in guarding your intellectual property. We don't know how you use our product. If you let us put an engineer in-house right in your manufacturing facility, we can work together to get you what you need. They liked the idea. They put a Rodel engineer in their plant. They improved the flatness of their wafers. They created a long-term working relationship marked by trust and respect. In 1989, Steve was promoted to president of Rodel Productions Corporation, the sales arm of Rodel Products. Rodel was an incredible experience, and Don Budinger was an unparalleled mentor. When he met Don, Steve was 29 years old. He had pulled himself up by his bootstraps, but his boots were lacking some polish. Don supplied that. He boosted Steve from a life below the tracks into a more refined world. He shaped Steve's thinking, notably helping him shift to abundance mentality. Don's example and influence buffed up Steve without changing his essence. Steve was still Steve. He worked hard and laced his work with fun. He pressed the edges. He was creative. Don remembers. We are back east in our main factory complex in Wilmington, Delaware. It's a Friday afternoon and we're tired. We have tickets for a return flight from Philadelphia to Phoenix. We arrive at the airport and go to check in. Steve takes his ticket and he tears it up. He throws it in the trash. I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'll see if I can get on the plane without a ticket." Obviously, today you couldn't do this, but things were different back then. Still, I have had a long week. I just want to get back. I'm sitting in the first row in coach. The plane is filling up. They are getting ready to close the door. I'm thinking, Steve's not here. He's not going to get on. I look in first class. There's 1 row with 1 empty seat. I'm not paying much attention. I'm just worried about Steve getting on the plane. Before they close the door, in walks Steve. Guess what seat he has? Yes, he has the first row in first class. He comes back to me and asks if I want the first class seat. I'm his boss. I say, no, absolutely not. You earned it. You figured out how to do it. You got it. That's who he was. He pushed the envelope like I've never seen anybody. He's uniquely skilled, and I admire him tremendously. I had the privilege of being his boss, perhaps helping in his development in some way, but he's a unique critter. There's just no question. That whole concept of listening powerfully and listening out of commitment and love, nobody's done that like he does. He's done it. I've worked with two presidents of the United States and Werner Erhard. I've worked with a lot of gurus back in the 80s and 90s. Steve is at the top of that whole list of personal development experts.
Thank you, Rachel. We appreciate you. That was a beautiful reading. And we'll take a short moment just to bathe in the amazing reading you just did. Greg, we're going to ask you to unmute. This is your first time here.
Supporting between the trades.
Yeah, so you're probably not aware that we do ask the readers if they would like to share something that they got from either the reading that they read or one of the other readings. And again, like we said earlier, you know, something about yourself or about you. Do you have something that's come up for you that you'd like to share?
I love, I really love how Steve found that balance between being a leader and how he was getting to know the people in the plant. You know, they said that there was no other salesman that spent that much time in the plant because for him, it wasn't about sales, right? For him, it was about getting to know the people, getting to know the product, getting to know the business. He was really being a leader. So he wasn't acting just as a salesman. He was being a leader in the company, representing the people in the company and representing the company itself. So I love that balance between he was a leader of the vision as well. So leader of the people and a leader of the vision. I think what's come up for me is really closing the gap in my own life between who I'm being and who I'm capable of being as a leader, as a father, as a community member. So that's really what I'm present to right now.
So you're consciously closing any gaps that you can see, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and really doing my best to, as I become really aware, I've done a lot of personal development over the years, and as I become aware of things, I've become a lot better at using that awareness and celebrating that awareness and celebrating my mistakes. My go-to in the past was to beat myself up for not realizing it sooner, right? And for being in that, let's say, that situation, for creating that. And in doing so, I wasn't taking 100% responsibility for my life. So now I look at it, it's like, okay, I made a mistake. That what happened happened. And now instead of using a stick to beat myself up, I look at that stick as a baton that I'm handing to my future self as a way for me to grow and propel forward.
That's beautiful. It's self-love is what I hear it as.
Yeah.
And self-awareness. It's like self-awareness leading to self-love. Yeah,
and I think that's something I've struggled with, bro. Just to give you a quick, I'm now being dropped off at my house, so I'm going to be getting out of the car. So thanks for bearing with me with a couple of distractions. I'm just going to thank everyone here. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, thanks, Hudson. Great game, guys.
You did beautiful tonight reading, and we hope you can stay with us. And
I'm going to continue to stay with you. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and thank you for being here. Thank you for reading on your first visit here, and thank you for that awesome contribution right now that made a difference for all of us. Where is Martha? Ah, I see Martha. Martha, anything come up for you?
Oh my goodness. You know, when I first read this book 2 years ago, and I received it at 8 o'clock at night, and I read through till 4 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't put it down. It was just like I needed to devour this book. And so reading it again for the third time, the reminder for me of Steve, like he's in my head all the time, is about commitment. commitment, and listening. And so in my document, I have a line that says, I am deep stillness, and in stillness, I listen deeply. And I remind myself daily that it's in that place of stillness and deep listening where I find the nuggets that I need for my uplifting and my growth, and also in communicating with another. So this chapter reminded me again of his tenacity, his fun, that part of him that's so much fun, that takes the risk. And it's almost like I want to incorporate myself into that energy of his that is so attractive to me. So I love this chapter because of those areas that call to me. Thank you. I'm complete.
Yeah, as I hear you, you're speaking like that you're listening for the essence of what someone says, right?
Yes.
But you make it easy for someone, all of us, to hear you because you're speaking so genuine and thoughtful. And it seems, and slowing it down just a little, like it, and I don't know if you're actually slowing it down, but it's so easy for me to follow. So appreciate that. We appreciate that share. All right. Where is Rachel? Oh, Rachel's up in my corner. Rachel, thank you again. Anything come up for you?
Well, I'm just reminded how Steve is not afraid to be himself, taking the unconventional approach through his thoughts, through his words, or even through his actions. So that's what came up for me while I was reading the chapter.
Anything that you do that's unconventional that might resonate?
Yes, for me personally, when I first read this chapter, the first time I got a hold of this book, I felt a nudge to act on it. And at that point in time, I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to do. So when I went into prayer and asked God for clarity, what I should do, when I went into work the next day, I started getting ideas. And then I was like, okay, what do I do with these ideas? There's something has to be done with it. And then I had the next step shown to me, like I should get in front of someone to share these ideas. And back then I was working as a freelancer for a fashion company. And we all know in the corporate world, it's usually someone with a rank and title who's able to get in front with somebody senior in the company. So I had to figure out a way how to get past that supposed obstacle. And I went again into my quiet time with God, just thinking about, seeking guidance. How do I work on this? And I had an idea that I had attended a copywriting course before from my friend. And he spoke about how when we write something, it should be able to captivate somebody's attention no matter what. So I decided to put that idea to work, and I sent the email out to the senior people in the company. Of course, 3 emotions were going through my mind when I did that. One was, this is the craziest thing ever that I've done. And the second one was, I was scared. And third one, that I felt relief that I was acting on the nudges that I was receiving. And 2 days later, I did get a reply. I was shocked. But I was also excited because it seems like something's going to unfold. And there was a meeting scheduled for it in the week after. So I worked out with my business coach at that time. I asked him for, some guidance on how do you prepare for such a call, because it's my first time. And he graciously did a role play with me. And he gave me some pointers on what to take note. But at the end of it, he just told me to encourage me to just be myself. And don't forget to smile. And so when I got on the call, I know I had to answer the first question that is on both of their minds. That is, who am I? And so it doesn't matter whatever I'm going to share with them. I have to answer that question first. And I just said, hi, my name is Rachel. I'm a paralegal, former financial advisor, and I currently work as a freelancer in your company. And for that 5 seconds, there was absolute silence and a genuine surprise on their face. Because I think they would have had an assumption like some big wig was on the call with them, but it was like I completely flipped the script. But after they recovered from their surprise, they were just smiling all the way as I was talking to them. And that also helped to put me at ease. And I just shared with them what I had, the ideas. And towards the end, they concluded the call. They were like asking, this is so not part of your job scope. Like, why did you go out your way to do this? And I just told them truthfully, I'm just here to help. And I see certain things that can be solved. And I just wanted to share it with you. And I hope they can pass it on to whoever else this may concern so that they can do something about it. And as I promised them that I follow up the ideas in a form of a report that I'd done.
Yes.
Just as I was about to send the report, I was like asking God, like, should I just squeeze in a tiny little paragraph in there to hint at them hiring me or giving me a job with them? And the voice within that I keep hearing was, no, just said what you said you'll share. I'll take care of the rest. So I just followed my intuition and I sent it out. And about 2 weeks later, when I was doing my quiet time, I was being given an opportunity to reflect all that had happened from the time I read the book to the time I started acting on the nudges. I realized, yes, first it was an opportunity to serve. Secondly, I felt God was giving me an opportunity to activate a hidden skill that was already inside me, just needed the right opportunity for it to come out. And the third one, which was really clear for me personally, was to stop hiding myself. Because for a long time, I intentionally hid myself because from a very young age, people notice me, like in the way I think or speak. They always said that things like, I'm wise beyond my age. So that ended up, rather than helping me, in a way, it backfired for me because people started seeing me as a threat. And they would sometimes really go out of their way to be really nasty to me. And for me, I did not like any of that. So to protect myself, I decided to hide myself. I would still go out my way to help people, but I will do it in a way like the invisible hand effect. They won't know who's helping, just to protect myself. But then over time, I felt like God was like impressing on me that if you've been blessed with this gift and you are using it to help others, why must you feel afraid about what other people think of you? They are thinking, let them think that way. It's on them, nothing to do with you. And unless you use the gift of wisdom to weaponize, to manipulate, or to tear down someone, then yes, you will be in trouble. But if you're not doing any of that, why are you afraid? So I felt like God was like telling me loud and clear through this series of opportunities as I acted on the nudges, like stop hiding already, you have this skill with you, so stop hiding. So I did just that. So even though that company that I helped did not reply back, I took it as an opportunity for me to jumpstart, like to start afresh all over again. And when I had the next opportunity come to me, even though I was not employed as a consultant, I was still paid a freelancer pay on a part-time basis. I took on the consultant mindset. So I started doing whatever a consultant would do, even though I'm only employed as a freelancer. So I did not let the freelancer title like get in the way. So if I saw something that needed, solving a problem, whether a simple or difficult one, I tried my level best to troubleshoot it and, give a solution for it. And over time, the supervisor I had worked with, he trusted me a lot. So he started asking me and another friend of mine, like, how do we get things done? And there was a running joke in the warehouse because it was a warehouse environment. So there's actually a leader above me, then my supervisor. The leader above me, he would never show up for work. For the entire time I was there, I only saw him, I can count with, the tip of my fingers how many times he showed up. So whenever a newbie came, right, they would always ask who's in charge. And everybody else would say it's Rachel and Stanley. And then I have to correct them and say, no, we are not in charge. We work for someone above, but I'm not really sure when he comes. But it came to a point where my supervisor, seeing the work that I was doing, he realized that I was doing things very differently, like did not come in to work for the sake of it, where I could be of help, where we could help, foster team unity or help each other out. He really trusted me and he almost gave me the full reins to run things. And I remember the first example of not being afraid to solve a problem was when they opened the warehouse and they ordered, we had very high shelving. So you needed to use like a step ladder to get up there. I noticed that they were using office chairs, the one with the roller wheels, to step on it to get stuff. And I got really angry. And me having worked in a law firm before, we take things like this really seriously. We're very particular about stuff. So I told my manager, my supervisor, I said, do you want this company to be a hotbed for lawsuits for workmen compensation? If you don't, you better get safety ladders and please get a minimum of 3. And like, as it says in chapter 13, that Steve had a pit bull tenacity, I really went after him to really get the ladder. And I think he got so scared, he got 7 ladders instead of 3. And so that was, that's one of the personal experience I've had.
What's so amazing what you just said is like every point you just made was made in that chapter, like that chapter was made for you, to read. It's like, I don't know how we found you for that chapter or if you found us for that chapter, but that was amazing. And like the boss that helped you at the beginning, on that phone, was it a phone call?
Yeah, yes, correct.
Yeah. That was like Don. That was like Don, right? And then learning everything you could as a freelancer, but also as that next level person. It was like Steve going into the plant, and learning everything he could about the product, knowing that he was going to have a higher role at some other point. And then one other thing that hit me is you use the word intuition, and that's actually one of the words that is in that chapter. So that was amazing, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you too.
Yeah. Wow. Holy cow, that was beautiful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. David, we have to unmute you.
Yeah.
Oh, still muted. Try it again.
Nah.
Tanya, can you unmute David? Yeah, perfect.
There we go. Yes, I was trying to unmute and I was not being successful at it. So thank you. There were 2 things in this chapter that really struck me. One is that, yes, he was learning all he could about the product. But what that really means to me is that he was not afraid to ask a stupid question. Because people who are afraid to ask a stupid question, they're there to look good, but not necessarily learn. They're there to make a good impression. But he wasn't afraid to make a bad impression, even if it meant losing a finger in hydrochloric acid. He was there to learn, and he wasn't concerned about whether or not people thought he was smart, or people thought he was stupid, or people thought he was crazy. He was there to learn, and that was the primary thing. And he didn't care what people thought about him, because you couldn't care what people thought about you if you really wanted to learn about the product. And that's and for me, I struggle with that, because I don't want to ask a stupid. I'll talk to somebody in private, but I'm not going to go raise my hand and ask a stupid question, because I'm a smart person. Why would I do that? And you learn, and when I stop caring about what people think of me, I can be and not be concerned about the rest of it. Second thing in the book, that in that chapter, I had to deal with this with a client personally today, is that apology. It was sincere, and it showed an incredible knowledge of the industry. And he said, yes, you can fire us. You have every right to fire us. And you're going to have the same problem with the next guy, because they're not going to be able to do any better, or we can work with you. And they only gave him 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, he was able to do that because of his authenticity. The apology was genuine, the sentiment was genuine, and his understanding of the situation was something that they said, yeah, you're right. There were so many ways that each of us would have approached that. And I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I don't know that I would have approached it quite that way. I don't know if I would have been nervous. I don't know if I would have even made that plane flight. But he knew what to do, and he knew how to be authentic in that moment, take ownership for the situation, and offer to work together with them to make it to do it right, because he knew that that was the only way that that was going to happen, and that they were going to do the same thing over and over again. So being not afraid to look stupid and being authentic and real with them are two things that I took away from this. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between those two, isn't there?
There is. But in the second one, he's authentic and authoritative, because now he's the director of sales. And he's also explaining something because he has a level of understanding that he didn't have in the beginning. But he got that level of understanding from doing the work and not being afraid to ask stupid questions. So they're related to each other, but I don't think they're the same thing, but they're very much one. He couldn't have done one without doing the other.
So for you, the message is being your authentic self and not putting up any kind of facade. We made a mistake. I'll own it and we'll fix it. And so that is where your situation in the book resonated.
Yes, and so yes, it is in the same way, not having the facade in terms of not being afraid to ask a stupid question. That is there is a similarity there. Yes, I see what you're saying now. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I thank you, and I'm complete.
Beautiful share. I used to work in the restaurant business long time ago. I recall being 20 years old, about 1977, running a kitchen at the time the restaurant did $5 million in volume. And I'm this hot shot, 20-year-old kitchen manager. And we were such a busy restaurant. We had a lot of clout, and I was getting some bad produce in. And, so I'm like ready to fire the produce lady. I remember her name, Angie Grillo. And I talked to my boss, Chuck Muir. He owned this company. He's an amazing leader. And he's like, no, you don't, that's not what you do. You go and meet with the person. You have a cup of coffee. You take them out for a cup of coffee and you talk to them and you let them know, and that's what you did. David, and that's what Steve did in the flying to the chip company, the wafer company. So it's like that was a lesson that I learned. It was a huge lesson. Communication, talk to people, own it. Angie owned it, and good things happen out of that. Dave Orton. We have to unmute you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, for reading this. The section that spoke to me most powerfully was Dawn, speaking about Steve, that whole concept of listening powerfully and listening out of commitment and love. Nobody's done that like he's done it. And for me, who I am is listening for the divine greatness in everyone. At least it's in my document. And I count myself lucky to be surrounded by people who are listening for the greatness in others. I'm not going to name anyone because that would fall under the acknowledgement section, but I can squeeze that in a little bit right there. Listening from love, listening from commitment, listening from heart, listening from soul makes all the difference in the world to me. Whether I'm being listened that way or whether I'm the one doing or being the listener.
Can you recall where you listened at this high level?
Yeah. So this call, I'm listening to different people that I have conversations going on with. And, you know, you might notice my beautiful wife, Penny, here.
We did.
Yeah. And you might notice Renata here, and you might notice Teresa here, and you might notice Carol Metzmurray here. And I haven't had a conversation with Greg yet, but I'm going to. And Vanessa, haven't had a chance to talk with Vanessa. Got one scheduled with Amy. When I am listening without anyone, intentionally listening, the intention slides immediately into loving, listening for greatness, listening powerfully. At least it's my experience. I had a beautiful conversation, short but beautiful conversation with Elizabeth today, and she got the nudge for that conversation, and it was beautiful. And I experienced those two things today. Thank you for asking, Tom. I'm complete. Love you guys.
And that is exactly how I know you to be in my life, is somebody that's hearing for the essence of what's being said. And you'll get refinements if you're not sure. But that's been my experience. Thank you. Daniel, with the new painting behind him.
I've been called worse things. I'll take it. Thank you. I hadn't thought of this piece about this chapter. This chapter is really interesting for me, but something that you said, David, sparked for me. I had an experience. Well, I'll say it this way first. Something that I notice about Steve consistently is this, I don't know if you call it owning of his desires. Like there's this great line from a Hafez poem that every desire of your body is holy. Every desire of your body is holy. And I notice for myself, sometimes I oscillate with how much I own or commit to my desires, how much passion I have for them, and the places where sometimes I get sort of apathetic, and I'm just kind of curiously observing that. This sort of sparked this for me a little bit. I'm thinking this in a way like for Steve saying, like, you know, rip up the ticket. I want to, you know, I'm just going to do that, and just get the plane tickets. We're going to go over there, and, you know, like there's this desire and immediate action that seems to go there. And I reflected on, after when David was sharing, that a long time ago, I had worked at this place called Omega Institute in upstate New York. And I went there in my mid-20s. I was working on the seasonal staff. And it was it was a gig where I worked 30 hours a week, and I got a place to put my tent. I didn't get paid any money, but I got food, and I got to go to a lot of classes. And I was in heaven. I thought I was just getting the best deal ever there. Meanwhile, a lot of other people are like, this is slave labor. And it's, I was like, oh, this is so great. So I went through my first season there. It was like 5-6 months and I loved it. And then said, all right, I'm going to come back next year. And I arranged my whole life to fit with that. And it was a 6-month seasonal thing. So about halfway through the off season, I got the message from the director of hiring there that actually we're not going to hire you back next year. And I remember my friend saying like, dude, how do you get fired from a job where you don't even get paid? Like, how could you do that? And for me though, I was just like, I was happier there than maybe any place I'd been in my life. I felt like I fit in so many different parts of my personality got to come forward. And so when I got the news that they weren't going to hire me back, basically I wasn't welcome back, I was crushed. And and the first wave was just such disappointment. And then afterwards, because I did want it and the desire kicked in afterwards, I was like, well, let me see what can be done about this. And so I got in touch with the director of HR and said, well, how come and what can I learn? And he told me that some of the people I worked with had the impression that my desire to go to classes was more important than my desire to get the work done. And they felt like I was, not that I never did the work, but that I would do things like, hey, do you mind if I go to this class and then I'll come back afterwards and I'll do all the cleaning that I need to do? And everybody always said like, oh, sure. But actually they didn't really feel great about that. They felt like I was being a bit selfish about it. But I didn't know that because I was so like into the classes. I was, I had my blinders on in some way. So after I got this feedback from the director of HR, I came back to him and I said, I get it. I totally understand how I came across like that to people. It was not my intention. I thought I was taking care of everything and, it was all working out, but I get that, that I wasn't. And, if you would consider giving me another chance, I would really appreciate it. And so he then wrote back to me. This was back in the days of letters and before cell phones. And he wrote back and he said, I've worked here for 20 years and we've had to not hire back a lot of people, but you're the very first person that actually ever owned having some responsibility for it. So they literally allowed me to come back again to a job where I didn't get paid on probation. So I went back the next year on probation, knowing that if I did not show up well, they were going to kick me out. And it was incredibly humbling. And I guess why that memory was provoked in this chapter for me after what David said is like, I really did have such desire for it that it was natural for me to sort of dig deeper into the humility and self-reflection and go forward with it. So I don't have any necessarily conclusions or revelations, though this chapter and that memory has sparked a few things that I can feel like are brewing in a useful and curious way for me.
Yeah, for me though, it sounds like you owned it, just like Steve for the company owned it, and just like David talked, he owned it, and that's what you did, and then the authentic matter comes up too. You were being authentic, and look what happened. You got invited back. And that's an amazing place. I'm familiar with that. I would love to go and spend some time at Omega. What a great opportunity you had.
I lived there off and on for 6 years, as it turned out. And so as a as a teacher and a coach, it was unbelievably useful. As a retreat leader, I like really cut my teeth there in a lot of ways. So I'm super grateful for it.
Yeah, so that's an additional to the story. 1 year and out, and you turned it into 6 years.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah, thank
everybody.
you. All righty, we have Joe. Love to hear what you got to say, Joe.
Hey, everybody. You know, it's amazing because the more and more that I read this book about myself, inevitably a chapter will jump out at me and I'll relate to it. And the biggest thing that I got out of this chapter was I came to the realization that over the past couple of years, I was living in had like this undertone of a low level of anxiety, sometimes a high level of anxiety, basically living in fear, trying to protect what I had. And obviously, if you focus on something, trying to protect what you have, a lot of times it disappears. And with this chapter, what I got out of it was, as I'm piecing together who I'm being over time, there was this whole tone of fearlessness in this chapter, which is obviously, I never considered myself to be a person that lived in fear. And the first time I read the book about myself, and now I'm probably in the, I don't know what time, I've come to the realization that I was always this fearless person. And somehow over the past couple of years, I became this person that was living in fear. And this chapter, what it really brought out of me was, oh, that's part of who I am. That's part of my identity. That's something I'm grabbing back for myself. So it had a huge impact as far as living in fear or living in a state of possibility.
So you see yourself now, not the chapter resonated, but it's been something that you've been working on, is to be your authentic self.
Yeah, not to be less than who you are.
Yeah.
For yourself or anybody else.
Yeah.
I be you. And this chapter, you know, where Steve tears up the ticket just to prove that he can get on the plane. To me, that was like, oh, that's something I might have done 10 years ago. But over the past couple of years, what I've been trying to do is not put myself in situations like that, which is not who I am. That is who I am.
Cool.
So it was impactful. Yeah. Fearlessness.
Well, all of us in the room here want to support you being that, being who you are.
That.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking here and I see Teresa. Is there anything that you'd want to offer us today, Teresa?
Well, maybe not on the professional side, but so I have two comments that come to my mind, and that is, when you live a life of integrity, there's nothing to be fearful of, and that is the type of courage that I recognize to be present in this chapter. Is it's the fearlessness of integrity at its best, but also with the apology. Stepping forward with an apology. I would take that, the place where this really means something to me is in my personal relationships. To be able to step forward without excuse for your actions or the behaviors, but stepping up, taking ownership, accountability, and then also having a solution. In real life, it would be having that olive branch, be prepared with the olive branch so that you're not just stepping in to say you're sorry, but you're ready to make some type of recompense and partner with that person again. So that's what came out of it to me.
I'm glad you added that. And Joe, I see you're shaking your head. You know, so is that integrity piece that Teresa just spoke about, you know, keeping you, you know, what did you say, Teresa? Was it like with integrity, nothing to fear?
Yeah, you're fearless with when you have when there's integrity presence, there's a courage. There's nothing else for you to have when you're working out of integrity. There's no fearfulness, and that's where that stamina, that forcefulness comes from. Is at least that's what my opinion is. What's being shown in this chapter is the active use of a person's integrity.
Thank you for adding
Yeah.
that. Go ahead, Joe. You were gonna.
Yeah, if I may, I love that you said that, Teresa, because again, it's being aligned with your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and if all three aren't aligned, you're not in integrity. So that's where the fear comes from.
Yeah. Well, it may not be its origins, but if you want to live a life without it, an integrity-driven life will be the way to live, because I've said before that integrity is love. It's just spelled a little different.
Mhm. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's other good shares hanging out in these tiles here that I'm looking at. And is there anyone that wants to say it? They just can't put their hand up. Andrea. You have to unmute there.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom, for calling us out.
Oh,
I love this.
I just
I
know.
love this conversation.
It's an
Yeah.
intuition.
Yes, exactly. So that intuition, that nudge, that's actually kind of what I wanted to speak about today. Rachel, awesome read. Thank you. And I don't know if you remember, but last year, actually, you taught me, you said a prayer for my mom, and you taught me how to pray. So I want to thank you for that. I don't know that I ever thanked you for that. And so Rachel shared how to pray. So that was awesome. And also there was a piece in there about the listening, like Dave was listening. That really stood out for me too. The power of is in the listener. And I had a something happen to me the other day. Martin and I we went out to go for a walk, and beautiful sunny day, like ideal day, perfect day. And just had to go pee really, really badly, and was gonna have an accident. And then I spotted like an outhouse across the street. And so all my focus was like on this outhouse across the street. But I had the light, I had the crossing for like a couple seconds. And so I had to make a quick decision, like whether to go for it or wait and lose it. So I asked Martin, I said, can you see? Is it open? Is it open? And so I stepped off the curb, two steps, and I listened for his answer. I wasn't looking at traffic. I was just focused on the outhouse and listening. And I heard him say no. And then in that split second, I took the two steps back, and I heard the screech of brakes, and there was like this bicyclist coming, like he was going to go through the red light. And there was another one coming the other direction that braked and screeched of brakes. So it was like if I had not listened for Martin's answer, I would I would have been hit, and I would have gone forward and not instead of yeah. So I really feel like the listening is it made a difference.
Yeah,
And so I'm real
and also
grateful.
your intuition.
Yeah. So it's the listening and the intuition, they're my superpowers now. And my question was how to create value in the work that I do. And so I was listening for that. And I think I heard to hang on, I think I lost it now. Yeah, it was how Steve was so curious, and he genuinely wanted to learn and be and solve the problem. So he was really listening from a place of service and asking questions and getting in on the floor, and the intention was to solve problems, and so I heard that I get to listen, I get to ask, and I get to listen, and yeah, that's the value that I bring. I'm going to bring my voice, use my voice and speaking and intuition more.
All right. Thank you for that. And I think everybody's dying to know if you made it to the outhouse.
Oh yeah. I forgot to say that. Actually, I didn't go to the outhouse because it was locked. He said no, it's closed. So I was like, okay, I need to find another place. And so we found another place. So yep.
Okay.
That was thanks for asking.
And I have to say this before we go to Cassie, is every time you speak, I look at my phone here, it's sitting right here, and 1111 came up.
Oh, get out. Really?
That's happened before because I've sent you texts. So that's a little thing that happens to you a lot. All right, Cassie, do you want to bring us home?
Yes.
Okay, we're waiting to hear.
So, speaking of courage, it's taken a lot of courage to speak up. Sometimes I feel like the Lion and the Wizard of Oz. Courage. So, anyways, just going back to like being a leader, how Steve was explaining there. I always like looked up to these leaders in my life when I was growing up, and always beating myself up for not being like them. And so now I'm working more on the self-love and self-care, and perhaps building myself up instead of spending so much time and energy, and how easy it is to build others up. I'm really working on planting positive seeds for positive harvest. So I appreciate you all listening. Yeah. Oh, like I had always had a vision of leaders up on a pedestal, and like say the president. And so it's been a learning lesson to just remind myself that I too can get to that same place. The president is another person just like all of us. So.
100%. There are 22 people in this room, not counting you. You're the 23rd. And I say everybody in this room sees you as a leader. I do. So thank you for doing something that was uncomfortable. I know I've been there many times, and we appreciate that. So, last call. Going once. Oh, Andrea, are you up again?
Yeah.
Okay. And Penny. Penny, you'll be our last show.
Oh.
But Andrea, go ahead.
Okay. I forgot to mention I had this really cool thing happen to me today. Today's All Saints Day, All Souls Day, and so we remember. I got a message from my mom who passed last year. I posted on Facebook Marketplace her watch. For Mother's Day, I said for Mother's Day gift, and it never sold, and I never took the ad down. And today I got a message someone was interested in the watch, and so yeah, yesterday I was digging for a picture of her in her Halloween outfit, and the watch was there, and then today I get an offer to buy the watch, so I just thought it was kind of cool.
Doesn't surprise me because it's 11-1, so it makes sense that you do that.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, thank you for that. Penny, how are you?
Pretty good. I'm feeling really nervous. It takes courage, just like she said. I'm like really. Whew. So, just need to calm down a minute.
Yeah, you can take a deep breath if you'd like.
Okay.
We got you.
The question is that I was thinking of, who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? And that's one of the many questions. Anyways, so I teach sewing classes for students. I have like 16 students. It's pretty fun. And they don't offer that in the schools anymore, around here anyways. And so I'm just realizing these students, it's almost like a lost art, right? So being able to teach these kids and adults how to sew, and beginner lessons and stuff is pretty neat. And so I was also thinking how I would relate that with the story, this chapter, and some things I had that had come up is follow my inspiration. I started teaching the classes in 2020. Stop hiding my gifts and do something that I love. So I was, that's another thing. And then be authentic and be me. So, sometimes I'm silly, sometimes I'm forgetful, and, I go ahead, I apologize. I also, if I have to cancel a class, I am prepared to also, communication is important also. So I ask them if there's any other day. So I try to work with them and have them have at least the same amount of days of sewing, or even more. Sometimes I even go over sewing class times to make sure that they get their max amount of time available. And so I always try to, I tell them, the parents, that communication is key. If they can't make it, please let me know and we can try to reschedule. If they don't show, then that's different, and then I don't try to reschedule. But if they let me know ahead of time, then we try to reschedule. And let's see. And yes, I was always told always do more than you're paid for. So I try to do as much as I can um, for everyone in any situation. So even if it's just helping someone out, just try to be there and helping someone move. I was the last person to leave, and just talking with them, anything they needed. And but I do like helping others anyways, so it's just it's a good thing. So that's it. I'm complete. Thanks.
An amazing thing. And you are, it's a theme tonight, the authenticity and being you, and doing the right thing. And I want to acknowledge you for all of that. Oh, I know I'm not supposed to acknowledge, but I can do it. I'm the moderator. So thank you for the courage to talk to us. And I don't know who was talking about, I think it came up a couple of times today about communication, and it takes, there's two sides of a communication. There's the speaker. Henry David Thoreau said, that I'm not going to quote it properly, but that in a conversation, for there to be truth, you need a speaker and you need a listener. So we acknowledge you for being the speaker so that we can be a listener tonight and get the truth about you and the message that you delivered.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Wow. This is why I come here. This is why I'm in this room, and this is why you all are in this room. And so I want to thank the three readers tonight. Rachel, your beautiful smile. You talked about smiling. You talked about, I don't know if you use the word risking, but like going out there, putting it out there, doing something. So many good shares tonight. And I guess we should honor Steve or Amy and Alan for writing this book, and Steve for living the life that allowed them to write the book. So I am going to yield to Ken. Ken, can you land the plane for us?
I sure can, and I'll have to make this quick because I got to go pee really, really bad. So, wow, what an incredible moment that we're all in right now. Where is she? Rachel, I want to try to find you here. There you are, sweetheart. Listen, I had the opportunity. I never met you before. And before we came onto this call tonight here, you came in with the Team Tuck and you shared a little bit about yourself. And all I kept hearing from our leader, Miss Tanya, about how incredible you are. And you're an incredible person. And you did not disappoint any of us here tonight. I mean, the way you went into reading and then you went into the sharing about yourself, and you shared an incredible story about who you are as a being through your journey, through your work. So I acknowledge you. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for being you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be present in your life here and getting to know you. With that being said, I want to take this moment right now to acknowledge our moderators. Elizabeth, you've moderated so many times before, and a lot of times when I come on there moderate, I go by your example. And I will share this with you real quick, is that when I begin coaching, one of the things I do to get this thing serious, the conversation serious, I always ask the question, are you ready to get started? And you started us out there tonight doing that. You got us grounded, you came, you showed up, and you brought us into this ready to go. So thank you so much, Elizabeth. Tom, my man, Tom, what can I say, brother? What can I absolutely say? perfect way to get us all through this tonight. Your incredible shares, the way you ask questions, the way you were listening. You were 100% present for every person that spoke up. And I appreciate you. And that was awesome. Now, to all of you. Well, no, you know what? Let me acknowledge our first and second reader here. Where is Mr. Greg at? Hopefully he's still on here. So let me find you here. Oh, there you are. You're off to the right-hand side of it. Greg, you were put on the spot, and thank God you were. That's what it's all about. I hope you got the flavor, the purpose, the reason why you're here tonight. You were put on the spot and you didn't disappoint, Greg. You read and you stayed with it and you came and said, who do I need to be to share this about yourself? Greg, you showed awesome vulnerability tonight in front of a bunch of strangers who are now your friends moving forward. And I wanted to acknowledge you here. So thank you so much for doing it as well. Where's my man? Where's my Martha at? There she is. Martha, thank you so much for reading what you had read and taking the time. I know you personally because you're part of Team Tuck, and I've heard you so many times in the past. Even when I was just getting into the book readings here, I always remember when you showed up here, your presence, your love, your givingness here, way to be who you are. Thank you so much. And to all of you tonight, I want to acknowledge each and every one of you who took the time to share who you are. You brought yourselves here tonight. And this is why I love, here it is, 11:32 on the East Coast, PM. I get up in 5.5 hours. I choose to be here to learn from each and every single one of you, to go through this journey, to live what you're living, to take what I've learned and walk out of here with it tonight to go ahead and make myself a better person. So thank you to all of you. And last, thank you, Team Tuck. For those who don't know, Greg, Team Tuck behind the scenes, we get together 3-4 times a week. Our dear, beautiful leader, Tanya, is always present with each and every one of us. Every one of us, no matter what time of the day, no matter what kind of questions we have, she always holds the space for us. And that's what makes this a team. It's not about Tanya. It's about all of us behind the scenes to make this all present for us tonight. So Greg, you are the newcomer tonight. I hope you got a lot out of this. I hope you show up again, because now you are on a journey with all of us. And we would love to continue to learn about who you are and how we can be the same way you are. So thank you once again. So now I can sit here and talk for another hour about acknowledging and what this all means to me, but I'll slow it down. I want to remind everybody that this does not stop here tonight. We continue this book reading on Sunday, this Sunday, May 5th. And we're going to be reading 2 chapters this week, this Sunday. It starts at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And we're going to be reading chapter 14 and chapter 15. Chapter 14 is Werner, and chapter 15 is the buildup. And we got 2 incredible people who are going to be reading for us. Our very own Andreas Buren and Mr. Daniel Aaron. So if you can make it on Sunday, please show up for these 2 incredible readers and continue the journey that you are all on now. Now, with that being said, I want to remind everybody that the United States does do their time change this coming weekend. Sunday morning at 2 a.m., we turn our clocks back. So prepared for that, and Google it wherever you are in the world to figure out what time it is. Google it. We want you here on Sunday, so you don't show up an hour later thinking, "Oh God, I missed it," or oh, am I too late? So we do our time changes this weekend. So I got 2 incredible announcements right now. One is that we got 2 Ultimate Coach experiences happen. One that begins in January, and that's going to be on January 26th and 27th at the Scottsdale, Arizona location. This is our 2nd year anniversary for the Ultimate Coach. And if you haven't not gotten your tickets, please do it. Go for it. If you're on the fence, don't make that fear that you have in your side of yourself, whether you should do it. Money fears, flying fears, traveling fears, busy fears. Get over that. Get your tickets now before they're gone. And then when you decide you want to do it, it's too late. And normally we ask, if you want more information about it, go into the chat room and say, yes, I'm kiboshing that. We're going to post in the chat right now the link for the Arizona Scottsdale Ultimate Coach Experience now in the link, so you can make the decision now to look it up and see what you need to do. And the second incredible one is right after that, 4 months later. It's the TUBE 24, the Ultimate Birmingham Experience in the UK. And that's on May 25th and 26th of 2024. Again, the link to attend that, to get tickets, is going to be into the chat. So quickly do it, because before you know it, it might be not there available for you to do it. And then you have to wait a whole nother year to do that. So I'll be at the Arizona one there, just so you know, if that's any kind of influence, I'll be there. So come on out. Now, this was an incredible experience. We're here tonight to experience one another, experience our true being, experience the being book of what it means to each and every one of us. But let's continue that journey. After this, even with the book, we have these multiple resources that you can go ahead and visit and enhance your learning, enhance what it means to be your being. We have the Ultimate Coach YouTube channel. We have the Ultimate Coach podcast. A lot of incredible people on there, the moderators on there, the facilitators on there, interviewing people that are read the book and sharing their own experience about their being. We're up to, I believe, episode 74, I think we're up to. Since we created this here, that's how many episodes up. So take some time to go and learn from other people who are sharing about their being. We got the Ultimate Coach Instagram, and we got the Ultimate Coach LinkedIn group. And for those who do not know about this, we have the Ultimate Coach Weekly Being Digest newsletter. Free to sign up. Sign up for that, where you get information on a weekly basis about upcoming events. So if you forget to go on the Facebook group, if you forget about coming to these, or you can't attend these, get the newsletter. You'll be updated about everything that is going on within this community about the movement of being. So if you need any more information about that, please let us know, and we'll get that out to you. Now, last but not least, right after this book reading, please join us for the Afterglow meeting. And what we do in there is nothing is recorded, nothing is shared outside of that. It's another place for you to share even deeper. If you weren't able to do it on the book reading tonight, or if you feel that you want to share more, come join that. That's where a lot of magic happens there. A lot of experiences happen there, and sometimes even a possibility of a little bit of coaching that happens there as well. So please join us for the Afterglow, and join us to go even deeper if you wish. And last but not least, what I'm going to ask everybody to do right now is I would like everybody to unmute yourselves, and I want you to give everybody a hearty good night, well wishes, loving everybody, and being vulnerable and showing who you really are. So thank you all.
Good night, good
tonight.
morning, good
night.
evening, good
Good night
afternoon.
and good
everybody.
morning.
Aloha,
Awesome
aloha.
job, Rachel.
Bye, Rachel. I love
Be
you,
with
Rachel.
y'all.
You're all
My
amazing.
Rachel, that was amazing.
Good
Good to meet you.
Awesome shares, everybody.
All right.
Loved all the sharing.
Yes, thanks, Greg.